Trenton 365 with Jacques Howard. Profiling the businesses, organizations, and people that make Trenton better.
Hello, friend, and welcome to the Trenton 365 show. I'm your host, Jacques Howard. You can find us on Tuesday nights from approximately 8 to 9 p.m. here on WYMG 1300, the oldest radio station in the state of New Jersey. You can follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. WYMG 1300. The website is WYMG1300.com. In the studio with me is Chuck Latini, and Chuck and I go pretty far back to childhood days of playing sports and spending time in Ewing Township, our hometown. Shout out to all the Blue Devils out there, and I know there are plenty of folks listening because they want to hear about what Chuck's going to be talking about. There's a lot of excitement and buzz about redevelopment happening in the capital city of New Jersey and the state of New Jersey in general. And most people have heard about the old Fisher Body Plant, the General Motors site that was located on Parkway Avenue in Ewing Township. And for many years, there's been talk and speculation about what's going to happen with this site. Well, you're going to find out tonight from Chuck, who is a planner, and he's going to be talking about lots of different things relative to his industry and the business, but most importantly, he's going to be talking about that particular site. So, Chuck, thank you so much for coming into the show.
Thanks for having me, Jacques.
Absolutely, man. It's always a pleasure. And I also want to give a shout out to you because you were just in Trenton recently on another planning type of issue happening
in the
in
state housing, the state office buildings that they want to redo.
That's right. So in downtown Trenton, you were there to give a little summary about planning and how that looks. Most of the people may not understand that the development of neighborhoods in cities are designed by someone like yourself. So can you just talk about the industry a little bit?
Sure. Well, for many of us, we go to school, many grad school. I graduated from Rutgers, and I've been practicing since I left there for about 20 years now. Time flies, doesn't it? Since the days of being on a hardball field. And so, we are designers, architects of sorts. I have an urban design background, so I have the ability to draw buildings and such. A lot of planners work with their municipalities, work with their private clients, and try to figure out exactly how to build a site, how to grow a community. And that starts with a master plan, and those master plans are what everybody works off. If it determines where your certain size houses are going to go, whether they're big, whether they're small, whether they're going to serve the wealthy or the workforce, where your office buildings, where your retail, all the different community facilities like parks and your health and human services and fire and emergency services go, and all that gets drawn out. Many maps go into these master plans, which end up becoming the foundation that town councils across the state use as their ordinances. So if you want to put a shed in your backyard, it tells you how many feet it can be from the side yard, or how close you could be to your neighbor for your pool. Mm-hmm. All those kind of regulations end up getting drawn up by somebody in my field. So it's definitely fun, and the creative part for me is where I get the most satisfaction from.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want you to talk about what just happened in the, so to speak, green room just a few moments ago when you were sitting there, and one of the other folks who was a guest on one of the previous programs told you who her father was.
Yeah, our father was Mr. Anthony. He taught industrial arts in Ewing High, and it was by chance that I took this class, probably somewhere near sophomore or junior year, somewhere in there. And I needed a class to take. I wasn't specifically looking for it, but it has served as the foundation for what I do now. It really rang the bell on engineering, planning, design work, and I said, hey, I'm not a mathematician, but I can draw. Mm-hmm. And so there are a lot of fields out there that can use the talents of somebody with an artistic background. So he really shaped where my path ended up after that.
That's fantastic. Yeah. And that's a story that I think more people need to know about. They need to know that whether you're a teacher, an instructor, you're touching a lot of lives, but to see it come to fruition like this, and I brought this up just a few moments ago, he touched your life in a class in high school that struck something with you and lit this fire or stoked this fire that was in you, for you to go ahead, finish your degree, become an entrepreneur, start your own firm, and now you're helping to develop the town center in the hometown where you're from. That's an amazing story.
Yeah, it's fantastic. His daughter had said, he was lamenting the other day, well, what did I do? I was just a teacher. Well, he planted a lot of seeds out there, and one of them being me, who has grown into doing something that is, in effect, planting more seeds. You know, we work with the community, came up with a new vision for how these industrial sites, the General Motors and the Naval site, were going to be redeveloped. Planted a lot of seeds out there on what could be, what this thing could grow into, and here we are right now. You know, the seeds are just starting to come up out of the ground. We got a long way to go before the tree gets big, but
all right, you made that clear, and I can't wait for you to come back at a later time to talk more about this project and some of the other projects that you're involved with, because I'm excited about how this region is going to look in the next 10, 15, 20 years, because we are of that generation now who are going to be able to help guide how that development goes. I'd like to back up a little bit and talk about your time after college. After you finished up school, you got your degree, you know you're going to be a planner. Talk about that process, because I think that there's probably a lot of young people who may not know what your industry entails.
yeah, absolutely. You know, finding the actual field of planning didn't happen until a little bit later, but I was searching around based upon Mr. Anthony's kind of his tutelage in school, and you know, we talk about this quite a bit as an organization about what is land use planning, and what is city planning, or what it is to be an urban planner. All these things that you hear, and sometimes folks go, well, you know, so you plan parties. I'm like, no, you know, we actually do a lot more than that. So, you know, I think what ends up happening is we've lost our connection to city planning over the years. The automobile took over, became very engineering dominated, you know, in the decades ago. And things started to turn around. What the intricacies in the art of planning was kind of lost for a time, although now it's coming back in a big way, because the marketplace absolutely wants the 24-hour live, work, and play environment. And now that technology is out, you know, they want that even more. You know, they want to be in a downtown. They want to live there. They want to work there, walk there. They don't want to get in their car and be separate from everyone else. They really want to mix it up, and you see that a lot in the marketplace, whether it's Princeton or Moorestown or Morristown in North Jersey. All these great communities really have held their value even during economic storms, and it's largely because they have so many components to them that offer so much to people, and so the interesting thing about planning and how to and the art of it really is that all these different details of what a community is start to come together in a big way. You know, you have to really think about how people are going to walk, how they're going to bike. Where does it make most sense for the retail to be located so that it has a chance to survive and thrive as a business too? Where does it make sense for people to live, and then how are they going to access things? How are they going to get jobs that or access to bigger and other places like New York or wherever? So there's a lot of moving pieces and a lot of connecting the dots, so to speak. You know, I was quite fortunate to have found the field, and it's really suited me. People talk about, well, now you're getting a little older, you know, what are you doing for your retirement, because you've got your own business now? And I said, I don't really think about retiring, because this isn't work. I'm doing what I love, you know, and working with people and the communities and helping them figure out how their communities are going to grow.
You know, and I'm glad you said that too, because I think our generation is probably that cusp generation where we realized, hey, I can't go and get a job and work there 30 years like my parents or grandparents did at a location and then retire and off into the sunset. If I'm going to work 30 years, it may be 3 10s, 5 6s. It's going to be some combination of that, and I've got to be creative in that model. So it's awesome to hear that you feel as though you're in a situation where you don't have to think about retirement. Your life is just going to keep on progressing, and you're going to keep on doing what you love doing. So that's an amazing space to be in.
The interesting thing is to think about how others might be living their lives too, and how these different generations are now starting to reshape or shape the market and turning it from where, say, the baby boomers were, which our parents are, to the Gen X and now to the millennials. That has really shifted the ball game, and you see it in the development world now too. They're much more receptive to building the more complex mixed use environments, the ground floor retail with the residential above, whereas 15 years ago, 20 years ago when I started this thing, they didn't want to talk about it. You couldn't get funding for it. Nobody wants to live in it. They didn't see that some of the real cool cities were really thriving still, and then even starting to pick up. Some of the smaller towns in New Jersey, but now that the marketplace has really picked up, it's made my job a little bit easier.
When you talk about the civic portion of it, the community involvement, again, like I've seen you just out in action recently, involved in community meetings, sharing your knowledge and your wisdom, etc. But I don't think that enough people understand that this is a process where it's not someone rubber stamping and say, we're going to put this particular business or this building in this location because so-and-so wants to. There's a lot of steps that go along with that. Can you just talk about those a bit?
Absolutely. And I think that probably had something to do with planning's sort of turn decades ago, is the patience level of the politics and their propensity or their interest to go through process. So many communities are in the state and nationally, we're governed on 4-year cycles, unless of course you're in Congress or something, and of course you could be there for life. But municipalities in particular, where the rubber really meets the road, where all these decisions are really being made, is a 4-year cycle. And so the process of planning can be, I can go through, like the plan, for instance, for Parkway Avenue and the General Motors site. And that was about an 18-month process before you got to a plan that council then adopted. So the Mayor Steinman there, through his leadership, he encouraged us to engage the community, bring everybody together, talk about the what ifs. And a lot of this was built on some of the years before that. When I had started my career, I did a few years working for Ewing Township out of college, and I found a memo from 1996. It was addressed to Al Bridges.
Al Bridges. Shout out to Wes.
The great Al Bridges. I mean, I owe a lot to him, too. Saying the plant's closed and closing. We need to think about a new direction for the township, and so with that said, we went through the survey process back then, and that gauged some community interest on what we think we might have done once we actually got the okay to go into the plan process itself. Okay. But the plan process itself really engages the community at the grassroots level. It tries to get out as many people as you can, not only to get ideas, but to have a dialogue back and forth. Some people at one point in time wanted that to become an office park. They wanted to become a mall. They wanted the industry to continue there. All those different ideas were thrown out there, and the process gives you a chance to address in a dialogue why we can or can't pursue certain avenues. Gets them thinking in avenues that you can do rather than in a confrontational way. Mm-hmm. It brings everybody together, and everybody has a chance to be heard. And then you touch base through that time as you start to develop renderings, and then you get some more feedback, and then hopefully you're ringing the right bells. And this one we were ringing the right bells. People kept getting excited about it, and we were able to continue. Sometimes these plans don't work exactly like that. They, in the middle, the public might get cold feet, or the public might see a different direction, and you either change or you abandon the process or whatever. But ultimately, these plans, even though my name's on the plan, it's not my plan. It's the community's plan. I'm only the vessel, kind of facilitating the community discussion, the dialogue, and then eventually the direction and the vision for the future.
Folks, you can hear and see why I think Chuck and how I grew up as well is very similar to what you're going to continuously hear from people on the Trenton 365 show. This whole idea of people coming together and listening and observing and implementing different strategies that are successful and trying to figure out how to do things that are going to broaden the base as opposed to narrowing things down. Chuck, we're just about up on the break. Share your contact information, then we're going to take a short break.
Sure. Latini and Gleitz is in West Trenton, New Jersey. We're P.O. Box 7743. That kind of contact information?
Sure.
West Trenton, 08628. And I am CWL at latinigleats.com.
Awesome. And if you want to give them a call as well, I think that we can do that. 212-203-5137.
Yes.
And we'll be back after a short break. You're listening and watching the Trenton 365 show.
Right.
Heart disease is the nation's #1 killer, and stroke is number 5. But the good news is 80% of cardiovascular diseases may be preventable. The American Heart Association's Go Red for Women movement wants you to take control of your heart health during February, American Heart Month. Know your numbers, such as total cholesterol, blood pressure, and body mass index. Learn your family health history and discuss risk factors with your healthcare provider. Let's unite to prevent heart disease and stroke. Simple steps can help you live a longer, stronger life. Join the movement by visiting goredforwomen.org or call 609-208-0020. That's goredforwomen.org or 609-208-0020. Go Red for Women is nationally sponsored by Macy's. WIMG 1300 AM is a proud media sponsor of Go Red for Women.
And welcome back to the Trenton 365 show. I'm your host, Jacques Howard. You can send me an email, trenton365show@gmail.com. Website, trenton365.com. You can also follow us on Facebook and Twitter as well. Just do a search for Trenton 365 or me, Jacques, Jacqua, last name Howard. In the studio with me is Chuck Latini, also known as Charles Latini, Ewing High School graduate, just like me, and he's gone on to start his own firm, and the name of his firm is Latini and Gleitz Planning. They're based out of West Trenton, New Jersey. Website is Latini, LATINIGLEITZ.com. You can also call him 212-203-5137. And we've been talking about his background and how he got introduced to planning. And if you were listening, I don't know if you heard the little tidbit about this was something that was planted in him, or at least stoked in him, in high school. And that's what is very important about our time around young people, for us to realize that you never know what you're going to do to them to encourage them or discourage them. And Chuck was encouraged, and now he's moved on to some amazing things. And he decided to come back to his hometown, which is also pretty amazing. And he's going to have his fingerprints all over the Parkway Town Center, which is going to be breaking ground in April, if I have that date right, correct?
Lord willing.
So anyway, in the first part of the program, we were just talking about Chuck's background, how he got involved into planning, etc. But Chuck, I'd like to transition now, and I know most people who are listening and watching, they want to know, hey, what's going on with this Parkway Town Center and the different renditions it's gone through and where it is, etc.
Well, Parkway Town Center is a very specific project within what we're calling the Ewing Town Center. So Parkway Town Center is a name that the developer, who's Atlantic Realty, has coined the redevelopment of General Motors. And the Ewing Town Center is some of the land that surrounds it, touches on into the village of West Trenton, encompasses the West Trenton train station, portions of the airport, reaches up to Scotch Road, grabs the old Naval Warfare Center right across the street, catty corner. It very much involves the railroads, both SEPTA, CSX, the freight company who operates that line primarily, and then hopefully, fingers crossed, in the future, the West New Jersey Transit. And so the Parkway Town Center is a project, the General Motors site, and the General Motors site is 80 acres of approximately probably about 100 and if I had to guess, probably about 190 total acres of land. In the redevelopment area, it was about 120 with the naval base connected. So we wrote a plan for those two sites because they were so large.
Okay.
And then other zoning got put in place to support the plan. So so we've been working for the last year and a half with the specific developer. For a long time before that. I mean, it's quite a process. The process of visioning to implementation, it could be 10 to 12 years before you see something bubble up out of the ground, and we're right about at the 10-year mark.
Okay.
For this thing and some of the work we've done in the past, probably even longer than that. And so this project now just got planning board approval. Developer, very well-heeled developer out of Woodbridge, New Jersey, Atlantic Realty. And for the 80 acres portion, there's going to be what amounts to 1,200 housing units, give or take. And then there will also be retail and commercial in a ground floor configuration with some of the units above that. So all told, on the commercial side, there's going to be about 150,000 square feet of retail commercial. So when you come down Parkway Avenue and you hit that light right where the Marazzo Shopping Center is, you'll see 4-story buildings going straight up right there, similar to Robbinsville, as a local example of a new town center. And then those buildings will carry you into what amounts to an acre and a half community green, where the community can host events, music in the park. Hopefully one day the fireworks parade will loop around it, and then lining the streets on each side of the park will be 24 live-work units. So we were talking in the first segment about the changing demographic, and there's a push towards people who they don't want to have an office in their house, but they want it nearby. So there's going to be 24 of these units where the ground floor is commercial. Could be a doctor, could be me, operating a planning or an engineering firm. And I would live above it. Not connected necessarily inside directly, but it would be a commercial use with residential above. And then some of the streets that exist currently in the town, that dead end like Sylvia Street, that'll be connected through to improve circulation. And a whole new street network will be built across that whole 80 acres with bicycle and pedestrian provisions. Residents will have bike rooms, or not rooms, but they'll have sheltered facilities for the bikes to promote that. The project will also connect to the existing train station in West Trenton. We have commitments from SEPTA to rehab that station and actually make it, I would say, habitable for people who want to use it. Because right now people are parking in drainage ditches and whatever else they could park in. So we're going to improve that whole thing, landscape it, connect the new development and the existing development into it by foot. And then a host of other pedestrian connections and improvements, like new sidewalks on roads that might not have them or missing pieces. We'll be connecting bike trails from this new project to the existing community center
Okay.
Which was the old Jewish community center, if you remember. So that path will be a bicycle and pedestrian route leading right to the back door of that. Using the other existing streets, we're hopeful to increase that bicycle and pedestrian connections across the street through the Marazzo Shopping Center, because right behind Marazzo's is the West End soccer field. And there's lots of land back there that we're hoping to improve and then connect Carlton Avenue, hopefully, to that. And some of the parks there, with the idea of making it easier for students that are in Trenton State College to come down and utilize this area too. So that connection on that side, and then on the south side, we're also looking at those bike and ped facilities to connect to, say, New Jersey manufacturers. So at lunchtime, those folks don't have to drive to town center for al fresco dining, which there'll be some opportunities for. They could walk what is in essence about a half to 3/4 of a mile.
So hearing all these different options and being able to see the plan, and thank you for sending that over to me, this isn't something that the idea was just dropped in the middle of nowhere. It's very much a very cohesive plan, trying to integrate lots of different things that are already happening and are sustained in the area, correct?
Yeah, it's the product of that process that we talked about. That's why the process is so important. In this project in particular, it's easier for me to write this plan because I've thought about this. I experienced GM as a child, navigating, the 3:30 shift when it got out during the afternoon. You didn't try to cross Parkway Avenue because it was just madhouse. Other towns that I've worked in, I've done quite a bit of major redevelopment work, like in Harrison, New Jersey, did some in Hoboken. Those processes, for me, relied much more on the process, but that process really tries to get into the local expert. Now, Mr. or Mrs. Smith or whoever's sitting in their living room might not think they're the local expert when they're talking about putting together a plan for something as grand as this, but they are, because they remember the history. They remember when they were a kid, they used to walk through these woods here, and they connect to the back end of some other place that got them somewhere. Well, so that information is critical, because then I can look it up on a map and then start to connect the dots. And so all that information then comes together and helps form the plan.
Now, you also mentioned something, and we're about up on another break, but you mentioned something that was very critical. You spoke a lot about recreational opportunities, biking, walking, connecting to the West End soccer field, and those kinds of things. I know that you get that information from having the town hall discussions and meeting with people in the community, but how important is that in the idea of planning for someone like yourself?
Critical. Using what you have there as existing is great. When you're building something, particularly something at this scale, you want to build additional. Now, this is not to say I need to put a soccer field in the middle of this thing or a baseball field, but if I'm going to create this mixed-use environment where people are going to be on their feet and walking and biking, they need places, like the community green. That'll be more of a passive type of an activity. They need the public plaza spaces that you see in New York, all over the place. I mean, those become really critical to quality of life. And you might walk by them all day long, but at the end of but you could see them being utilized all the time in cities across the country.
And when I'm out and about and I'm talking to folks, that is something that I always like to share with them. When you're in New York or you're in Philadelphia, you're going to those locations generally for something. And you enjoy alfresco dining here or being able to catch a show here. Well, if you had those opportunities in your neighborhood, and then a lot of times you do, it behooves you to go ahead and enjoy those and to encourage the growth and development of those as well.
Absolutely. I mean, you got Rittenhouse Square in Philly, you got the Morristown Green in Morristown. There's a slew of them in New York City. We have them all across the state. A lot of our communities aren't using our open spaces to their best utility. And so the planning process can actually get at some of those opportunities by saying, well, why aren't you using this space that's in between these neighborhoods? Well, maybe when the neighborhoods were designed, they weren't designed to connect the people to them, and they have to walk all the way around and drive to it. Well, that ruins the whole reason for them to begin with. So connecting them to those spaces and adorning them with things that people want to do once they're there, whether it's just to sit under a tree or if it's a playground for their kid or a dog run.
Yeah, great. We're speaking with Chuck Latini. He's a planner, and we've been talking about lots of things about the industry itself, but we're going to be drilling down on the Parkway Town Center after a very short break. You're listening and watching the Trenton 365 show.
Woo! Big Mac, Mac Jr., Grand Mac 2. That's 3 Mac sizes made just for you. So no matter where you might be at, there's a Big Mac for that. Big Mac for that. Lunchtime already? Today's extraordinary. Juicy, cheesy, iconic Big Mac burger, now in 3 sizes. Only at McDonald's for a limited time.
Greatness comes in all sizes. Right now, try the Mac Jr. for $2, the Big Mac for $4, or the Grand Mac for only $5. Prices and participation may vary.
Ba-da-ba-ba-ba.
Do you have a long-distance relationship with breakfast? Does your morning commute take you farther away from the crispy hash browns and freshly brewed coffee you love? Do you tell yourself you're too busy? You just don't have time for sizzling sausage and fluffy eggs. Don't settle for missing breakfast. Let McDonald's close the distance between you and the most important meal of your day.
Come together with all your breakfast favorites and the bold flavor of McCafe coffee. Right now, get any size coffee for $1. Price and participation may vary.
Sherman Gillums Jr., Paralyzed Veterans of America.
For more than 70 years, Paralyzed Veterans of America has helped hundreds of thousands of veterans get all the benefits they have earned.
Al Kovac Jr., Paralyzed Veterans of America.
We provide one-on-one support tailored to your individual needs, including healthcare advocacy, benefit support, and career assistance.
For more information, call 1-800-424-8200 or visit pva.org. A public service of Paralyzed Veterans of America.
Okay, Sarah, I'm dropping you at Emily's, and Josh, you're going to soccer, right?
Yeah. Yep.
Oh, and by the way, when I pick you up, I'll be wearing my short shorts.
What? No!
Yep, me and my short shorts doing my daddy dance. Your friends will love it.
No!
Well, I might change my mind if you buckle your seatbelts.
Okay, we're buckling up.
See, all buckled.
Whatever it takes, keep them safe. Never give up until they buckle up. A message from the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration and the Ad Council. Visit safercar.gov/kidsbuckle.